a Sunday bonanza of live sport here on ITV with the Brazilian Grand Prix and the FA Cup semi-final.
But before all of that, it's time once again for F1 Special, Sao Paulo style.
Ayrton Senna e emoção pelas trilhas do Brasil. São Paulo. Faça amigos pela Transamérica. Para você de todo o Brasil, exceto São Paulo.
Listen carefully.
In about half an hour's time, it'll be over to Old Trafford for the FA Cup semi-final between Tottenham Hotspur and Newcastle United. But now, it's welcome here to Sao Paulo in Brazil, where the population is Formula One crazy.
And believe me, there's plenty to catch up on since the opening race in Melbourne. We'll spend some time with Eddie Irvine and find out how he's enjoyed the past 5 weeks since his first victory. We also pay a special visit to Johnny Herbert, who's reached a milestone of his own in what has been a career of triumph and misfortune. Plus, we'll bring you up to date with all the other developments in the world of Formula One.
But first of all, let's bring you up to date here at Interlagos with qualifying for today's race, which took place yesterday afternoon. Several high spots for me, Martin. I think probably one of them, certainly, was when Michael Schumacher came up to third place after he'd been in 8th for a long time.
Yes, his car, the Ferrari, looks a bit of a handful, especially over the bumps, but Michael hooked up a really nice lap, neat and tidy, but committed, and nipped it up onto the second row of the grid.
Yeah, but even better, I think, not just for me, but for the whole of Brazil, was when the hero of Interlagos, Rubens Barrichello, went back past Schumacher into the third place he'd been in before.
Yes, he didn't give up on it, and Rubens put in a really strong lap, but I loved the end of it, where he just threw caution to the wind, came steaming through the last corner up the hill, and he always looked like he wanted that third place even more than Schumacher.
Fantastic! Well done, Rubens! The crowd is going berserk! Paul Stewart is overjoyed! So is Jackie Stewart! Look at them! Look at Brazil on its feet for Rubinho! Damon Hill, rather disappointing, I thought.
I thought the Jordans would be better. Damon had a really scrappy first half of the session, and there was a moment there where he was on the rev limiter, sliding the back, very un-Damon-like, but he calmed down and ended up out-qualifying Frenton, the pair of them in the top 10.
But just as it was in Australia and for so much of last year, the McLaren's way out in front of everybody else. David Coulthard, I was disappointed with second place for him. Do you think he can do it?
I think he was disappointed with that. He's had the edge on Hakkinen all weekend, and Hakkinen, as ever, just hooked it all up on. And David, under pressure, locked a front wheel on one of his hot laps, and just that 1.5 tenths gone. And anyway, both McLarens on the front row.
So let's recap on the top 10 on the grid. Pole position, Mika Hakkinen with David Coulthard. Then Rubens Barrichello and Michael Schumacher. Row 3, Fisichella and Eddie Irvine. Row 4, Damon Hill and Heinz-Harald Frentzen. And on row 5, Alexander Wurz with Johnny Herbert. And all 4 Brits in the top 10.
Lap, what I did when I got the pole position was a good lap. But I lost some time in some corners because the car did not do exactly what I wanted the car to do. So it's still some work to do.
I think the car's working well. I think I'm actually quicker than Mika, although he managed to pull his section times together. I'm quicker in the first and the last sector. So it's there, it just needs to bring it all together.
This car is very competitive, very nice to drive, and I'm here to prove that we can be on that podium.
After a strong drive in the opening race of the season, Eddie Irvine finally silenced any doubters by coming home first at the Melbourne Grand Prix. Louise Goodman spent some time with the Ulsterman to see if it's all finally sunk in.
I was totally in control, totally confident. Just obviously worried about the car, maybe it would break, but I just felt Australia I deserved it and it was going to come my way. Fate.
Up goes the visor, out comes the fist. Oh, well done, Eddie Irvine.
5 weeks on from your win. You've obviously had time now to sort of look back on it. What's your thoughts on it, looking back?
I haven't been looking back really. You know, the next day I was thinking, wow, that's kind of cool, but really, you know, thought about Brazil.
You haven't looked back at all on it?
Not massively, no. I don't want little bits and bobs, but not no. You know, it's the next one's the important one. I've got to follow that up. That's the thing.
Eddie's sister Sonia, who's worked closely with him over the years and was the first to congratulate him straight out of the car, was a bit more forthcoming about how he really felt.
After the race, he was absolutely ecstatic, and if you had seen him in the room that night when everyone went back to the room, he was like a little child. I mean, he just couldn't take the grin off his face. I'm sure he had muscle ache the next morning because he'd been smiling so much.
And Eddie's still smiling here in Brazil, but has the win changed his attitude to the team?
I decided to say Ferrari because I felt Ferrari was going to be the best car that I'd get my hands on for this year, and you know, probably in Melbourne it wasn't any better than the Stewart. In fact, it was probably worse than the Stewart, and about even with the Jordan. But I think as the year goes on, we'll start pulling away from them guys.
So what's the master plan then after this year?
I don't know. Got to wait and see what's out there. There's no point just jumping ship for the sake of jumping ship.
But will your result in Melbourne, do you feel, help you?
Well, it helped to a certain extent, but it's not going to, you know, if I was to finish in none of the rest of the races or finish in the low points, it's not going to. No one's going to say, well, he won Melbourne, he's a mega. You know, it's not going to happen. It's the overall picture. That being in there is fantastic. Last year I had loads of podiums. I had 8 podiums, really 9 if you count Austria. Now I've got to win, and I want maybe another 1 or 2, and another 5 or 6, 7 podiums, and then that's a good step forward from the year before.
Here in Sao Paulo, the Formula One paddock is a very busy place. But I've zeroed in on one man because I owe him an apology. You see, before the Australian Grand Prix, I said the Stewart team hadn't got a chance. But they proved me dramatically wrong. So here is Technical Director Gary Anderson. Gary, I apologise, but I have to say it does seem to be a very different Stewart team this year.
Yes, it's very good. I mean, I think your comments probably spurred it on a little bit to prove you wrong. But yeah, the team's working very well. I mean, it's everybody in it's really producing the goods.
Gary, it must have been especially difficult for you. You had 9 years with Jordan, and then very rapidly you left Jordan and came here. How difficult has it been for someone at your level and your ability to adapt?
Jackie and Paul have really made it very easy. I mean, they offered me this position. They've given me the opportunity to get on with the job, and we just want to try and do a good job. We're just trying to do well.
Yeah, but on top of that, you're now developing a car that someone else designed, which can't be a perfect situation from your point of view. How much of a disadvantage has that been?
The lucky thing, really, I suppose, is that last year we learned at Jordan that you can't stand still. You have to push every race.
Yeah.
And I mean, it brought the Jordan on very strong at the end of the season. So really, although this car was designed by Alan and his people, you know, the changes on it are dramatic. Every race we go to have massive changes, really. And you have to do that now to try and keep up with McLaren and Ferrari.
Yeah, but this is the big word, Ford. Yeah. I mean, I hope I'm not being unkind when I say that the year before last and last year it wasn't the best engine, but something magical has happened over the winter.
Yeah, again, the same deal. I mean, Cosworth being bought over by Ford's obviously a big help to them. Cosworth themselves have restructured in a different direction, and it's the same as for the team. You know, the two together are fighting hard to get to the level they should be at.
They tell me you have over 800 horsepower this year.
I'm not allowed to disclose that, way.
Not even to ITV?
I think it's pretty good.
Now, Rubens and Johnny. I mean, Rubens is the established man. He's got a couple of seasons with the Stewart behind him. Johnny's the new boy. How are they matching in together?
They're working very well. I mean, I've known Rubens since his first day in Formula One, which is really an interesting thing to look at. He's a lot more mature now than when he left Jordan. He can cope with the ups and downs of this. Down just to get him down a bit. But now he's driving very, very well. Johnny is a good backup for Rubens. I mean, together the two of them are really able to look at it in different ways. Johnny with 10 years of experience at Benetton, different teams he's driven for. It really does stabilise the team very well to have the two of them.
Well, I'm going to be talking to another top paddock personality at the next Grand Prix, Imola. But here in Brazil, meantime, good luck to Stewart and good luck to you, Gary. Thanks for talking to us. Okay.
Plenty more to come in part 2, but before we take a quick break, here's a recap on last year's Brazilian Grand Prix. Coming to you from Interlagos. Well, McLaren had plenty of pace in the first race in Australia, but not a lot of staying power. They've had a lot of work to do before coming here to Brazil. James Allen investigates.
The sheer intensity of last year's championship battle has had an interesting knock-on effect on the start of this season. So much effort was put into development last year that the designs for the 99 cars were put on hold with damaging effects. In Ferrari's case, a lack of pace. In McLaren's case, reliability is the worry. Since Melbourne, McLaren has worked hard to make that thoroughbred more reliable, but they admit they still have some way to go.
Reliability is a lot better. It's still not completely out of the woods at the moment, but we're a lot more confident coming to this race than we were in Melbourne.
McLaren designer Adrian Newey is a driven man, renowned for pushing everything to the limit. At Williams, his car's won 4 world titles in 6 years, so there's no doubt he'll get his new car sorted. But how long it takes may be the deciding factor in this year's championship.
This year's car is, in many ways, quite a big departure from last year's car. It doesn't have many common parts, and the penalty for that is new parts can mean new surprises.
So in a way, it's a gamble.
To an extent, yes.
Meanwhile, Ferrari once again find themselves playing catch-up, having been 1.3 seconds off McLaren's pace in qualifying in Australia. They've been looking for more speed, and according to Eddie Irvine, they're closing the gap fast.
We went to Australia with a car that we'd done a lot of reliability work on. We hadn't really, it wasn't the be end and end all of Ferrari's technology, if you know what I mean, the speed-wise. We had a lot of our speed sitting at the factory, which wasn't quite ready to go. And we've got some of that here, and we'll have some more for Imola and onwards. Obviously, McLaren aren't going to stand still, but they probably hit the floor running a little. Well, they did hit the floor running a little bit faster than we did.
With the top contenders Schumacher, Häkkinen and Coulthard all failing to score points in the first race, the championship begins here, both on the track and in the minds of the engineers. The race is on.
Now, this country has a special significance for our very own Johnny Herbert. Believe it or not, it's exactly 10 years since he made his Formula One debut right here in Brazil. Martin's been talking to him about the highs and the lows.
So, Johnny, you've been a Grand Prix driver for 10 years. Must seem like an eternity.
Well, it feels as if I've been there, yeah, longer than that. But I've enjoyed it a lot. That's the main thing. There's been a lot of difficulties from the beginning, sort of midway through. But at the end of the day, I've tried as hard as I can, and I've enjoyed it.
But when you get up in the morning, you're going testing at Silverstone, it's pouring with rain. Are you still really buzzy about it? Is it still special every single time you get in a Formula One car?
I think probably Silverstone may be an exception, maybe. I think I've done that for so long over the years. But no, it's still there because you know wet conditions can be very important. So although you probably don't think it's exactly what you want to do, sometimes you're going to have to go out there and do a few laps at least. They normally force you out there anyway.
What about an interview like this or another press conference or whatever? Do you think, oh no, not another one, or at least they still want to talk to me?
No, I don't. I've never really minded doing it. I've always accepted it as being part of the job. So, you know, if they want to do something, I'm never difficult about it, and I'll do it without a problem.
Do you think Formula One's changed for the better in the 10 years you've been driving?
Well, it's funny. I've been thinking about it recently. That I remember when I first drove a Formula One car, which was one of the turbo cars, and they were fantastic pieces of kit to drive. But I think the best time I had was probably about the 92-3 season, because I think when those type of cars were sort of man cars, you know, you could really grab hold of them and drive them.
These things are a bit effeminate, they slide around a bit too much.
Yeah, they're very touchy little things, and they're very sensitive, and that's one thing. It's made it more difficult, and you have to concentrate much more. But
how have you changed in that time?
Well, I think you've had to change with the times. I think from when I first come in, I think I was sort of, I've always got this reputation of being sort of a laughing, bubbly Johnny Herbert all the time, but it was something I had from my accident days. I had to try and laugh it off to make me carry on doing it. But from now, I've tried to become more serious, but that sort of early part of my career is still a little bit there, and some people midway through always thought it was a bit, I wasn't serious about it, but I'm deadly serious about it.
How much has smashing your legs up affected your Grand Prix career, do you think, if at all?
Well, you can always look back, and I could say, well, if I didn't have it, I'd probably have been a world champion how many times. I think there's a lot of people who say that, but I think it would have been a lot easier for me. I think I would have got into a good team, I would have been normal, as in fitness-wise, and I think the results would have come easier, and as everything was in Formula 3000, I was on a roll. I was wanted by a lot of people. I was very confident about what I did.
Yeah.
And after the accident, I did lose it because I'd lost touch with it.
Yeah. Could this be your best year yet?
I think it's got a very good possibility of being that, yes, because the car has come on a lot. Cosworth have done a very good engine, a very good package, and I think what we showed in Melbourne has got a good feeling about it. And I think coming here to Brazil, I think this is quite important for us. If we can have a good Brazilian Grand Prix, I think we're going to have a very good, strong year.
I hated it when anybody asked me this question. You're 35 in July. Where do you go from here? What's the future for Johnny Herbert behind the wheel of a racing car?
Well, thank you, Martin. Well, I think I've still got a few years left in me. I think it's the normal thing. I think if you still have the desire to do it, you can still produce the right goods and the people notice those things, then it can go on a little bit longer. I wouldn't expect it to go on over 40 for sure. I think probably 38, 39 is probably a maximum. But again, you've got to get the results to stay there, and that probably is important for me now.
Well, we all at F1 ITV would like to see you get your third win this year, Johnny. Thanks a lot for talking to us.
I hope so, thank you.
5 weeks between Grand Prix is an unusually long time. But after the problems they had in Australia, most of the teams have welcomed it. They've had a lot of catching up to do. You've heard from James about the two super teams, but in a nutshell, McLaren need reliability and Ferrari need speed. Most of the rest need both. And right now, Jordan and Stewart seem to be in the best shape. Jordan have got a super package with the Mugen Honda engine, so they've been beavering away at developing something that's already right. Stewart have been a real eye-opener, and their new Ford engines said to develop over 800 horsepower. And they say they've nailed the problem that bugged them at Melbourne. Power, though, is what Williams, Benetton and the new BAR team say they haven't got enough of with their Supertech engine. So they've been concentrating on things like weight reduction, chassis development and reliability. And the French Prost team are surprisingly upbeat after a miserable time in Australia, because with a factory move and complete restructuring, they feel they're getting up to speed. They've certainly been going better here at Sao Paulo. But something they've all had to work on for Brazil is a very bumpy track. So finding a balance between giving the driver a comparatively relaxed ride and getting the grip they need has been exercising everyone. and that includes making the tricky decision about which of the two different Bridgestone tyre compounds to use for qualifying and the race. But for one man, it's all new. Frenchman Stéphane Sarrazin drives in his first Grand Prix thanks to Minardi's Luca Badoa breaking his hand. In at the deep end with a vengeance. And that's it for now from Sao Paulo. We'll be back at 5:30 for all 72 laps of the Brazilian Grand Prix. And coming up next here on ITV, it's the FA Cup semi-final from Old Trafford. But now it's time for the talking to stop and the action to begin. In just a few hours' time, the second Grand Prix of the Formula One season will be on. And if it's anything like the first one, it'll be a cracker.
Something is smoking.
Well, this is appalling for the Stewart team. Michael Schumacher, for the second amazingly Grand Prix in succession, will be starting from the back of the grid.
It's been a bit of a bruising weekend one way or another.
And boom, the rear wing goes.
What an Australian Grand Prix already.
And Coulthard missing.
Coulthard missing, where is he? What's happened to David Coulthard? We've seen one McLaren go out. What about Mika Häkkinen?
And very slow away. And Irvine takes the lead.
What amazing! Sounds as rough as old boots to me.
No acceleration, Murray. He's out of the race.
The gauntlet is thrown down to Eddie Irvine. This is what the Irishman has been waiting for all his Ferrari career.
Right rear puncture for Michael Schumacher. Now we're going to see who can turn these cars around the fastest.
Schumacher's coming in, James.
The Ferrari team aren't ready for him. I'm
He's
standing
very
here.
slow. He's
None of them are
very
expecting this
slowly.
at all. Huge scramble down here in the garage. They're very surprised by this.
It's Eddie Irvine gesticulating at Zonta. Move over. Eddie Irvine in the Ferrari just wins the Australian
Keep going, Eddie. The
Grand
line's
Prix.
there. That's it. Well done.
Fabulous.
Party on.
If you'd like to know more about Formula One, the website address sponsored by Level 3 Communications is www.itv-f1.com.
You may like to know that the official ITV Formula One Grand Prix guide is available, price $9.99, in bookshops now.